On today's episode, I have Isha Cogborn joining me of Epiphany Institute. She's a speaker, an author, a personal brand strategist, and if you are looking to ignite your confidence, this is the podcast episode you want to tune in for. Isha, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me. Anytime to hang out with you, I'm on it.
I love it. Some of my most favorite podcasts are the ones where I get to hang out with my good friends. So, of course, it's a pleasure having you today. Isha, I've had the opportunity to get to know you over the last couple of years, but would you mind just doing a general introduction about who you are?
Absolutely. Who I am. I'm Deon's mother, but none of you care about that. I work with people who are really focused on sharing their message on bigger platforms like this one. It's like, that there's something on the inside of you. You want to make an impact in the world, and you're tired of playing small, but maybe you need an extra little push out there, some help in doing it strategically. So I work with people to be able to do it more confidently and more competently in a way that's really going to allow them to make the biggest impact on the people that they believe they're called to serve.
And we were so lucky to have you in for a conversation last year. And a little sneak peek, we're actually having you back for our upcoming March conversation. So on March 10th, you're leading our conversation on the 7 steps to developing and practicing confidence. For our listeners, would you mind maybe sharing a little bit more about what that conversation will include?
Well, I tell you, whether it's personal branding or talking about confidence, any of the work that I do, it really came down to me very early in my professional career trying to answer a question. And when I was in corporate, I was working for one of the largest corporations in the world, largest chemical company in the world, in fact. And I remember looking around the organization, and there were people who were really good at what they did. But it seemed like they weren't necessarily ever in the spotlight. They weren't getting the opportunities they wanted. It seemed like they weren't getting the promotions. And as I looked around, and I was actually on the good side of that, I was getting the opportunities I wanted. So it wasn't that I was just disgruntled. But when I looked at those people, I was trying to figure out, well, why is it that some people seem to get opportunities while other equally talented people don't? And so as I tried to answer that question over the years, and even as I transitioned out of corporate into entrepreneurship, one of the things that I realized is that the common thread between those who were getting those opportunities and those who don't is they did a good job of managing their personal brands. And a big piece of managing your personal brand is confidence. And so I'm really looking forward to March 10th being able to really unpack that. And some of us believe, well, you just have to be born with it. There's some people that are just naturally confident. They're more outgoing. They're gregarious. And I'm not that person. So I'll never be that. But to me, confidence is like a muscle. And there are things that you can do. You can do your reps, you can do your exercises, have those building blocks of eating your protein, all those things that can build muscles the same way you can build your confidence. And so we're going to talk about some of those things.
Well, and I love your approach to these conversations because I think you do a great job as far as keeping it real and breaking it down into digestible ways in which anybody really can figure out winning strategies in order to successfully navigate that process. So very excited about that conversation. You are a super talented speaker, but you also are an author. Would you mind sharing a little bit more about that?
I am. So my first book was called 5 Rules to Win Being You. And it really was around this work of being able to take that step back and take inventory of what I call your tail of the tape, your talents, your abilities, and your passions and your experiences. What are those things that differentiate you from other people who do like you? Who do what you do. Because so often we get focused on what we're not. I don't have that advanced degree that my colleague has. I don't have the years of experience. I'm not as old. I'm not as young. I'm not enough, essentially, or I'm too much. And so in looking at your tail of the tape, it really allows you to step back and say, well, who am I? And how can I use that to bring value to the role that I'm in? And so that book, 5 Rules to Win Being You, focuses on that. And then last year, I had an opportunity to edit and compile a book with a number of my clients called On Purpose, Practical Strategies to Live Your Best Life. So 16 co-authors in the book. And it's really one of those resources that you'll come back to again and again as you're trying to figure out, hey, how do I get myself together financially? How do I position myself for opportunities I want? How do I leave a legacy? There's just so self-care. There's so many topics that are experts unpack in the book that it's one of those things you'll pull it out because I'm in this opportunity's in front of me, and you'll put it back on the shelf, and then you'll say, hey, I remember there was this other chapter in there about this thing. Let me go pull it out again. So I'm really proud of that project, and we're doing another edition of that this August. And I have another book just hot off the press that I'm a contributor to called Own the Microphone. And the author of that book, Bridget McGowan, talked to 50 professional speakers and just allowed us to share our stories of how we got started and advice that we offer to other people. Because professional speaking is one of those things that everybody kind of wonders, well, how do you do it? How do you get into it? And so, we all have very different experiences, but we offer those tips of how you might navigate your way if that's something you want to do.
And those that are interested in potentially reading these books, where could they find them?
You can go to my website. Probably the easiest thing to spell is coachisha.com. And there are links to all of the publications there. And they're all available on Amazon as well.
Well, if you can't already tell by listening to Isha, obviously she is phenomenal and so much fun to hang out with. So aside from just wanting to be friends with you and or one of the many reasons to follow you on social media, because you have built such a phenomenal brand and you just have such a great message, there are so many reasons why individuals here in our business community should connect with you. I'm curious, who would be the perfect person to connect with Isha Cogborn?
So 2 different people that I typically work with. One is an expert who has a really deep expertise in their lane, and maybe they've been doing it within an organization, maybe they've been doing it entrepreneurially, but they want to really increase that impact. And so they're saying to themselves, you know what, I really need to do more speaking. I need to get opportunities like this where I can sit down and do podcasts and TV shows. And I need opportunities to get in front of more of the right people without burning myself out, because none of us have time to spare. And it's really confusing when you've got a lot of people telling you, well, you need to do a podcast, you need to do this, you need to do a mastermind group. They're just throwing all these things. You need to be on TikTok, you need to be on Snapchat. Oh my gosh. It's so overwhelming trying to figure out all these things. But when I work with people, we step back and look at, number one, what's your business strategy? Because you can just wear yourself out doing stuff for the sake of doing it, or just trying to stroke your own ego by saying, look at how many followers I have. I'm this wonderful influencer. But really, who are you helping? And so how can we do that in a way that's really allowing you to be strategic, to be the places where the people you want to reach are there, and to make sure as you're showing up, there's not a gap between who you are and the way that you're portraying yourself to the world and what the people who want to work with you, what they're looking for. So that's one profile. And the other person is someone who is really looking to improve their skills within an organization. They may be on the earlier stages of leadership or even more advanced. I've worked with CEOs, I've worked with VPs and major directors of corporations who say, look, I know I need to be out in front of my employees more. I know I need to be doing more media proactively. And you know what? I really don't like that stuff. But I know I need to do it. And so I work with them to help them to develop that skill set so that they can be themselves. Because sometimes when you're working with people internally, even if you have an internal communication staff, I was on an internal communication staff in corporate for 14 years, it may be hard for those people to really give you the coaching that you need because they don't want to embarrass you in any way. They may have a really hard time coaching up. And then you as that leader may have a hard time being vulnerable and saying, you know what, I'm kind of nervous here. I need you to help me some more because you're trying to keep it together. And so being able to bring me in as that outside resource can just make everybody else's lives easier. You can be as vulnerable as you need to be to get the support that you need so that you can show up more confidently and more competently for the audiences that you serve in your organization and outside.
I think one great thing about you is the fact that you have been through both experiences, both from working on the corporate side as well as, launching your own brand, becoming an entrepreneur, and figuring it out on your own, what it takes to be successful. So I'm curious, can you maybe share a little bit more about your journey of becoming an entrepreneur?
So it kind of goes back to me being a child, and I had this picture of what I knew my life was supposed to look like, had no idea how to get there. But at one point I woke up in corporate America and realized this is not who I'm supposed to be when I grow up. And I worked for a great company, but it was time for me to figure out who I was supposed to be at that stage in my life. And so I started working with a coach, and she really helped me to make sense of it and to be able to say, okay, you work 60 hours a week. So there's not a whole lot to work with, but here are some things that are within your control. Let's go ahead and get your coaching certification. Let's do this. Let's do that. And at the point where I was ready to transition, I actually got laid off. So it was during the recession, and I was really excited because, I thought it would take me another couple years to make that transition, but it was like, all right, well, pink slip on January 14th, order new business cards on the 15th, we're off to the races. But with that came a lot of hardship in there too. I mean, I have been homeless. I've gone from making six figures to being homeless. There were times when I was published in national publications, and then there were times that I couldn't pay my rent, so it is, entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. It is not. But it doesn't mean that just because you're starting a business that you're going to have to go through the ringer. But I think the biggest thing is being willing to take risks and being willing to fail. And failure is not fatal. One of my favorite movies is kind of a silly movie, but I love oh gosh, now I can't think of the name of the movie. What was it? Where they went on Hangover. Hello, Hangover. And, there was a character in The Hangover, Mr. Chow, and he was the main character is there in his car. He's driving all crazy, and, they get to their destination, and they're like, oh, my goodness, what are you doing? He said, but did you die? And so one of the questions that I often ask myself through this journey, even if I felt like I just went through the ringer with things not working out the way that I thought they would, is to ask myself, well, did you die? And even going back to what we're going to talk about in the session around building confidence, one of the ways to build confidence is to recognize that you got to take risks. And if it doesn't work out, it's okay. You're not going to die. And the more that you take those risks, and no matter what the outcome, sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. But when you become more inclined to speak up, to advocate for yourself, to ask for what you want, then you won't sit in the corner and shy away and let your voice go silent. When you know you're the answer that's sitting in that room, you'll speak up because you're not going to die.
So a lot of professionals in the local market, I've had the opportunity to sit down and talk with them. And as being an entrepreneur myself with launching A to Z BizLink, I feel like individuals are a little bit more open to coming to approach you about, what does it really take to start your own business? And so it's been a beautiful process to help guide some other individuals. But I feel like there are still a number of people that are just scared to take that next step. What advice would you offer to those individuals?
Two things these are the questions that all of my clients have to be able to answer. Number one is, what problem do you solve? And who do you feel you're uniquely gifted to serve? Because if you can't clearly articulate the problem that you solve, you're not going to be able to clearly articulate the value in, someone working with you, procuring your products, your services, whatever. When you get that level of clarity will give you a level of strategic direction that is going to allow you to succeed so much faster and so much easier. And then, who are you uniquely gifted to serve? I think there are people that shy away from stepping out there because sometimes they think to themselves, like, it could be writing a book, and you think to yourself, well, I want to write a book on marketing. Well, but everybody else has written a book on marketing. There's so much that's been said on marketing. What do I have to say that's different? But if you know who you're uniquely gifted to serve and you can bring your voice to that, then you'll understand how you can differentiate yourself, because you may not be going after the audience that everybody else is going after, everyone else is focused on. When you know who your people are, number one, there's a level of confidence that comes with that, because now I don't have to prove myself to you. I don't have to try to convince you to work with me or to listen to me, because we already have the ability to create a connection to where oh my goodness, Isha gets me. She gets me. She's walking around in my head. She understands my life. She understands my challenges. I want to work with her. Where if you're not focused on the right people, that's when we look at people and we have that skepticism. We do it. I mean, we see people online and we look at them and we're like, I don't know if I believe it. I think they're full of it. And we scroll on. But when we connect with those people that they get us, we keep listening. We want to know more. We want to know how we can connect with them and work with them. So those are two very important things when it comes to starting your business and really building something where you're going to have some longevity.
One theme that I've seen amongst a lot of my friends that are entrepreneurs or leaders in the community is that they're continual learners. Mm-hmm. I feel like we've had this conversation on occasion, but I'm curious, what does continuing education look like for you? And how do you stay up to speed and knowledgeable about all these great topics?
I am a podcast and audiobook junkie. At any given time, I am probably listening to 3 or 4 books. And so, of course, I have an Audible account, but it's like, okay, so you get 2 credits a month. But if you haven't done this yet, here's a tip for you. I'm going to save you a ton of money. Make sure you have an account with the public library. They have a cloud library app. And there are plenty of ebooks and audio books that you can download free. And so then I can save my credits on Audible for those things that don't show up with the library. But I'm always listening to something. I've always got something going. And then there are times where I'm like, okay, my brain hurts. I just want to listen to something fun. So I'll listen to a storytelling podcast or something that is a little more creative, where I may not be tuning in to learn, because sometimes we just get into overload. But one of the things that I see people struggle with, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're in the corporate sector, is we're always taking the stuff in, but we're never doing anything with it. And so it's like, I need to learn more. I need another certification. I need to go to another conference. I need to work with another consultant. I need to work with another coach. But we're not moving on it. And that's a confidence issue, because we keep convincing ourselves, I'm not enough yet. I need more. I need more. And you can literally wallpaper your office in degrees and certifications, and you still won't move forward. It's not about you not knowing enough. It's about you owning the fact that you are enough.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think a lot of individuals just feel like, gosh, that's great information, but now what do I do with it? And that's the disconnect. And so I think our organization, A to Z BizLink, I think does a great job at the leaders that we do bring in for these topics. They provide practical advice and next steps that anybody could look to implement. So we break down those barriers and make it a little bit more approachable and say, okay, after today's session, this is how you can get started. So we are very excited about your conversation that you'll be hosting here on the 10th, as well as some of our other conversations that we do have coming up. You are working on a number of different types of projects. Is there any big news that you have in store here for the rest of the year?
Well, one of the projects that I launched a couple of years ago, or a year and a half ago now, I guess it is called Platform for Purpose. And what I did is, I stepped back. And it's, again, knowing who you're uniquely gifted to serve. And so when I looked at that, I was like, okay, who are the people that I work with that I know I'm uniquely equipped to work with? And one of them was that person that, okay, I know that I need to get myself out there in a bigger way, but I'm a little nervous. I'm still questioning my capabilities. I'm more comfortable being in the background. Another one is that person that is just busy and you kind of do things in fits and starts. You build a little momentum and then life happens and you fall off. And so one of the programs that I created is a year-long program called Platform for Purpose. And in that, it goes beyond just teaching you the skills. It's creating community. It's creating opportunities. One of the things that's really important if you're looking to share your message on bigger platforms is you got to have your receipts. Because Lindsay, if somebody comes to you and says, I want to do a workshop at A to Z Bizlink, you want to know, like, okay, so what have you done before? Show me some of your stuff. What I need to see some receipts, because I'm not putting you in front of my audience of people who trust me to bring them quality information. I'm not just putting anybody up there. And so one of the things that I work with my clients to do is to help them get those receipts so that when they have that opportunity, they can demonstrate that they're capable of delivering, because they already have the knowledge. They just may not have been focused on getting those opportunities where they can demonstrate it to the rest of the world to get some of those bigger opportunities. So the program is called Platform for Purpose. Again, it's a year long, and we only open it up twice a year. And so in May, we're opening the doors again. So there's going to be information available right now if you go to platformforpurpose.com, and you can learn more about the program, find out if it's a good fit for you or not, or if you know someone, because we all know those people that we look at them and are like, oh my goodness, I see you. I see what you're capable of. Why are you not doing this or doing that? And so maybe they just need that little nudge to say, here's a solution. Because again, for so many of us, we're walking, talking, breathing solutions, but people just don't know we exist.
Is there a cap on the number of people that can participate in that program?
Only 10.
And is it just individuals here on a local basis?
No, we've got people. So right now we've got a cohort going right now, and we've got folks in North Carolina and in Oregon and, all over the country. So it doesn't matter where you are. Everything is done remotely. We do a couple of in-person experiences. We do a 2-day on-air boot camp to get you ready to do stuff like this so that you don't freak out or just randomly babble and then go home and say, man, I meant to say this. I should have said that. And you missed all the opportunities. We get you ready. And then we also do a 2-day speakers intensive. And even if you're very comfortable being in front of people, there are different things that take you from being a comfortable speaker to a professional speaker. And so we want to get you to that next level.
So some individuals may hear a year and think, wow, that might be too much of a commitment. What does that time commitment actually look like throughout the course of the year?
I ask people to commit 3 hours a week to working on your platform. As our mastermind group only meets once a month, 90 minutes once a month. We get together twice in person. And then you and I will meet either once a month or once a quarter for your strategy session. That's it. So it's very, and my focus, again, as I look at what are people doing? People are busy. So I'm not trying to kill you. I'm not trying to work 80 hours a week either. So I've designed the program that I needed when I was getting started, and it's very doable. And one of the reasons that I made it a full year is because life is going to happen. I had someone that was in the cohort last year, and I will tell you, over the course of the year, she had 3 close family members die. And it was absolutely horrific. But because we were together for a full year, she was still able to step back and to regroup and to continue to do things that move her forward. Because we've all done it before. You invest in a program, you go to a conference, and again, you come home and you don't implement anything. But when you've got that ecosystem built around you for a full year, you know you're not going to be the same a year later.
Well, and I think with doing it for a full year, it also helps to hold you accountable.
Yes.
And you have someone else to check in with.
Oh, yeah.
And tell me a little bit more about the demographics of the group. I mean, are they specific industries or age groups, or what would that look like?
Folks, so if I look at all the people that have come through Platform for Purpose, I have a former MMA fighter. I have someone who is a licensed professional therapist. our counselor. We have we've had a couple of career coaches, someone who focuses in operational systems and helping entrepreneurs really create the back end of what their businesses look like. So it's just a very diverse group of people in terms of their backgrounds, their skill sets, and the audiences that they serve. But the one thing that they have in common is this is work that they're committed to doing. It isn't like, oh, well, I just woke up this morning and somebody told me it would be a good idea to go do this because I could make a lot of money. No, this is that thing that is in their gut and they have to do it. And so that is what I'm really looking for when I'm deciding who are the people that we're going to allow into the cohort, because there is an application, an interview process, because if we're going to spend a year together, I want to make sure that it's a good thing for you and it's a good thing for me. And so making sure that the work that you're doing is purposeful is probably the most critical part of the program.
With everything that you're working on, it's clear that you were a perfect fit for our Resources for Growth publication. Isha was actually featured on page 51 of our volume 1 of the Resources for Growth book. And with that, we love to introduce great leaders to the local business community. And though you are one of the many phenomenal leaders, I'm curious, are there any other leaders that you would encourage our listeners to maybe look up or look into that could potentially help set them up for success here in 2020?
Absolutely. So one of the people that I kind of mentioned, and she's actually in the Resources for Growth as well, who is in the Platform for Purpose. Her name is Lavista Jones, and she's the owner of 31 Marketplace. And her work is really unique because, again, let me just tell you, I'm a mess when it comes to setting stuff up. I have somebody right now that has come to my house and purged my office and put my files together, because my brain just doesn't work that way. If you tell me here's what you do and here's where to put your stuff, I'll do it. But I can't set up my own SOPs and work processes. And so that's what she's been able to do for my business and to allow me to streamline things, to be a lot more effective. We've automated a lot of things, and she's allowed me to grow my business without killing myself, because now it's I got to work 20 extra hours a week if I want to grow. So Lavista is wonderful at being able to look at how your business runs and to be able to diagnose where the issues are. And one of the things that I love so much about what she does, though, too, is she has a focus on self-care. And she works mainly with women business owners, because this is something that we don't do a lot of. But as we step back and she frees up your time, then it's okay, how do we put you back on the list now? What are some things that you want to do, some ways that you can bring enjoyment back into your life so that you aren't just focusing on your business or everybody else around you? And so having that combination in what she does really allows us to feel more well-rounded. I don't believe there's such thing as work-life balance. It's never in balance. We do what makes sense based on our priorities at the time. But I also don't believe that you have to just completely burn yourself out. There's an organization that I started 3 years ago called Startup Life Support. And really the main focus is realizing, you don't have to sacrifice everything at the altar of success. So how do we make sure that we're keeping everything that is important to us in the forefront, and then making decisions consciously and not just letting things happen? So Lavista Jones, 31marketplace.com. I recommend reaching out to her.
Follow her on LinkedIn. She shares some great posts as well.
Yes. And I know she's going to be on TV next week too. So she's and this is one of the things I love about Platform for Purpose. And I was just telling somebody today, if you do the work, if I say, hey, do this, and you do it, you're going to see the results. And Lavista has been great at implementing the things that we've talked about. And, I'm seeing her she's had 2 speaking engagements last week, and, she's doing more media. She's been invited to contribute to book projects. She's finishing her own. And so, it's not about ego, but it's about impact. And so when I think about the lives that are going to be changed because more people know that she exists and have the ability to benefit from her expertise, that's what matters.
Absolutely. Yes, I completely agree. She is one of my all-time favorites, and so glad that you did bring her up. I'm thinking we may have to bring her on for one of our podcasts now. So as we're looking to wrap up today's conversation, is there any other information that you think would be helpful for our listeners to know about yourself?
Well, I'm not even going to talk about me. I want to talk about them. And I talk about personal branding. I talk about making an impact. I talk about confidence. But if there's nothing else that you remember, I want you to really, really internalize this. Get this in your head, in your heart, in your belly, everywhere. Realize that you don't have to be perfect to make an impact. And too many of us are sitting in the corner when we need to be on the stage. We're deferring to the people around us when we have the answers. And we're allowing ourselves to really become frustrated because we know that there's more, there's bigger, there's better. There are opportunities for us to shine in ways that people don't even know, but we're not opening our mouths. And one of the reasons that we're doing it is because we're thinking to ourselves, but what if I fail? What if I don't know the answer? What if it doesn't work out? And so I want to encourage you to push beyond that, to not make it about you, but to think about the people that you are going to impact, the benefit that is going to come to everyone around you when you fully step into who you are and own all that you are. And a question that I like to ask people is, who wins when you win? And so maybe you're content just being all right, just settling for this role or this position, or just financially being comfortable. But that's because you're just focused on you. So ask yourself, who wins when you win? And even if you're at a point where you're not willing to do the scary things for you, do it for the people who need you and who are going to benefit when you take those bold and brave steps.
Isha Cogborn, thank you so much for being on the A to Z BizLink podcast today.
Thanks so much for having me.